Sorry for chugging.
Okay. This week we're talking about the 2014 Clint Eastwood movie American Sniper. This movie, I'm gonna start it off with a positive note. This movie does a really good job of putting you in the headspace of a soldier, exactly how somebody like a Chris Kyle ends up in the position that he is. This movie does a really good job about showing what war does to the destruction of family. But and it's a big but. I think it kind of
big ass.
It and I don't necessarily know how to talk about it, but it does a really bad job of over glorifying someone like Chris Kyle, who
this movie does slurp Chris Kyle.
It slurps him so hard, and
sure
if you actually read what his this movie was based off of his book, and some of the different things that he says in the book are kind of questionable. But I don't want to go too far into that right now. At least
we'll get there when we get there.
All of that said, I don't know. It's if I had to rate it, it's a hard movie to rate. I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Go next, because I think I agree with Chris 100%. I think it is a 6 out of 10 movie. I enjoyed most of the movie, but it is a bit hard to I don't know. The more I read about Chris Kyle, it seemed like a lot of the shit he put in his book. We can get to this later, but it's only verifiable by his word of mouth. He's yeah, I killed all I got the.
He would never. He would never hype himself up. No one would. I wouldn't lie in my book.
It seems like it literally just existed in his own head, and we're well, we can't disprove it, and I guess he was a scout sniper. But let me finish it. We'll get everyone's thoughts.
I was just gonna make a joke with you. Sorry, I just wanted a joke. Sorry.
I know we get carried away in the intros sometimes, where people don't get their thoughts till 10 minutes in. So I'll keep it short. But yeah, I think the movie is a 6 out of 10. It kind of glosses over Chris Kyle and who he was. But yeah, I think it does a really good job with PTSD and all that shit, especially in the modern military. But yeah.
I'll go next because not very exciting. Same thing, 6 out of 10. Didn't love it. I didn't really hate it, but
lame.
There's some problems with this movie. Just looking at it as a movie, there's even bad CGI in it. Every time someone gets shot,
it's pretty bad. Yeah,
it's just a blood spurt and a hole appears. It's you could have tried a little bit. Jesus Christ. But
there was some decent
it definitely took away from it. Go watch it back and you'll be oh, that looks stupid. But and the fake baby, that fake baby.
We'll get the elephant out of the room now.
You couldn't just get a baby. You could get a baby anywhere. I'd give one right now if you asked me to.
Yeah,
they had babies in other scenes.
Yeah, there were real babies already.
But to give it a plus, I mean, I feel like Bradley Cooper put his all into this role, and I definitely enjoyed him as Chris Kyle. The movie portrayal of Chris Kyle, I really liked. Obviously, I think he's a very enjoyable guy for the most part. They do show some flaws to him, but other than the fact that he is literally the Terminator in this movie. But yeah, that's at least my basic rundown on it for me.
Nice. John, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Yeah,
sure. Cole, you're going.
Cole's going, yeah.
Okay, Cole's going.
Cole said he's going.
So I didn't do any research on the man outside of this movie. So I'm just going purely based on the movie and what I saw. I'm not going to repeat things that other people said, but I don't really think they actually glorified him that much. They showed some pretty glaring flaws in his personality, how he was as a husband and a father. He was kind of a super soldier, never missed a shot. I mean, I kind of just took it as that's a movie and they're just gonna hype him up because
yeah, I mean that's definitely part of it.
But yeah, I mean I thought Bradley Cooper did a great job. I thought the mom did a good job. I don't know. I guess I'd give it a 6.5 just because The movie didn't really make me care about like the overall plot. It was like, why is he fighting there? Like,
It wasn't a lot of plot, really.
yeah, it was just like things
His
he
life.
did, and
Yeah.
they just never really drew me into
A highlight reel.
Yeah, it was a highlight reel.
reel.
But I mean, it was a lot of cool stuff in it, but yeah, I just wasn't very invested.
Well, I mostly agree with you, Cole, because I really didn't like this movie very much. I don't hate it, because I really just thought it was.
And we're very pessimistic. about America.
Most-
Well, I feel like everyone said the same thing so far. Sorry, John, but just to be honest.
No, because like in that, I don't think this movie is really over glorifying Chris Kyle as a person. But there are obviously there are contradictions between like the way that he is portrayed in the movie versus like what he was actually like in real life. But like even more than that, I just thought it was like a really like mostly dull, like not like it was just kind of a slog to get through. It was 2 hours, but felt like 3 hours. Like, and just not really like I usually like Clint Eastwood as a director. I think he's mostly
Yeah, I would
done
agree
good
with
stuff.
that.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought the direction of this movie was just really like uninteresting and like just bland. Also, I feel like because this is really like I didn't realize like going into it that it would be as much of like kind of an anti-war movie, really. Like, because it's obviously like what it's going for is highlighting the issues that like
Veterans
how
experience.
that PTSD affects veterans, as well as the way that they're affected whenever they do get back, like the way that people treat them whenever they get home.
Mhm.
But I feel like that kind of what it was going for there is kind of muddled, especially in comparison to like how much like just like war stuff there is, and like there are certainly are parts where there is some pretty heavy-handed glorification of Chris Kyle, but
Yeah, this movie like
Wait,
lot of the
John,
time-
we didn't give you the random
Hey,
scale.
you need the
Save that thought,
John
Chris.
needs this
Hey
guy,
John,
yeah, go
John, from 9mm to 50 caliber, what would you rate this movie?
probably like
Airsoft gun.
like
That's fucked up. It wasn't even on the scale.
7.62 by 39.
maybe like Nerf bullet to the eye.
Oh shit! Oh,
That's pretty
shit.
bad.
I think it's no. I think that because your Nerf fights
An
are fun.
inconvenience. It sounds
Then
what
you
it
get hit
sounds
in the
like.
eye, and you're like, "Fuck, man."
It's just like
I
annoying.
wanted to have fun right now.
Yeah, so I think this movie does a good
It's a
job
good time.
of like putting you into to like feeling like you're a part of the war. And I would not say that it's a slog. I feel like everything about it it's a pretty entertaining movie if you take it at face value. But a lot of like the Chris Kyle's character motivation never really lined up. Like at the beginning, he says like his dad is like, oh, there's sheepdog, there's sheep, and blah blah blah, implying that like his entire goal is to like protect. But it's like, and then it shows the clip of like 9/11 happening, implying that the Iraq War was about 9/11, which it literally wasn't. It's factually proven not to be, and so there is no like motivation. Like there is the only reason that like the bad guys of this movie are bad is because they're like being portrayed that way.
And that's
I mean, look, I
doesn't-
would
I
agree
don't
with
think-
you. They do a terrible. Sorry, Sam. Do a terrible
You're
job.
good, you're good.
With why they're the bad guys. Like they just call them savages and evil
Yeah.
the whole time, and that definitely does not like, especially now. Like it just doesn't feel good to watch that part because it's just it feels
Yeah.
weird. Like
But
how,
not
how
only
hard they just
not
talk,
only is it good.
and
How
they
does
try to
seem kind of racist?
It
ahead,
it does
Yeah.
feel like that, but they try to just make them feel like monsters. And I mean, like I get it. You need a villain in the movie. There has to be an enemy to fight against, But it feels a little distasteful for sure. But I was just gonna say that you misread that a little bit, Chris, because that wasn't his motivation. Really, his motivation was always to protect like the people he cared about, and like there's like weird reasons. Like I think I don't think he was thinking about like who he was really fighting. He was just thinking because he was like country over everything, like
Yeah.
the
He
Patriot.
only thinks about
And those are
growing
his
a second.
brothers.
But the
Yeah,
people they
it's
were
not like a big
fighting
part.
weren't a threat to the U.S. and the movie doesn't
Chris,
address
all right.
that, and that's my
Yeah,
issue.
but
have a lot to say.
yeah,
the
that's,
movie
that's
doesn't.
wrong.
The
Sorry,
movie
go ahead.
never addresses that.
I
Alright.
just think because the
I-
person doesn't care. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think I don't think the movie is saying that. I think the movie is saying that's what Chris Kyle thinks, but I don't think it doesn't seem like Clint Eastwood was saying like 9/11 is because we're in the Iraq War.
I think it
does
is 100%.
pretty
I think it is.
I
would
think-
agree that it
disagree.
feels like-
I would
agree
agree
it
with
feels
Sam,
like that.
actually.
I would agree.
I
it
think
feels
to
like
any
that, though.
normie person that doesn't know why we actually fight, like why we actually fought those
Yeah.
wars in the Middle East and why we are still fighting to this day, like the average person doesn't realize that, you know,
think
like
the movie-
9/11 isn't the reason for this.
Can I
Movie is
say
a
one thing real
criticism
quick?
of that.
Really quick, as
I
someone
don't-
who finished the movie 5 minutes ago,
Mask off moment.
he was already in the military before he saw 9/11 happen. So I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
that
That
was.
was why
taken-
I went
But
back
it's just
to
the scene of like the Trade Center like going down is immediately cut with him in Iraq
Can I say that
Yeah.
that was a funny
in the
scene?
sniper scene.
Because
Yeah, that was a real weird scene.
he
the way
comes
to
out
do
of the
that.
shower at the end of 9/11 like, wait, what's going on? Like, bro, like when the first tower got hit, it was already like
You know-
all over the news. Like, you didn't miss that shit. Like,
Longest
did-
shower
did-
ever.
reminded me-
did the first tower get hit and then he hopped in the shower mid tower getting hit?
Well, maybe his wife like turned on the TV like while he's in the shower.
Yeah.
There's no
Remember
way
the
they just
Family Guy
never had
clip?
the TV on. It was on everything.
It reminds me of the Family Guy clip. With Peter like walks in and Lois is crying. Goes, huh, must have been a woman pilot, huh? Like it's what it's. He like, walked in
That's
so
funny.
nonchalant and was just like, oh no, and then like
There
hugged
was a
his
couple
wife.
weird scenes like that in this movie.
There's a
Like,
lot of
there was-
awkward scenes.
and it's
Yeah,
supposed to be like
very
super
awkward.
emotional when his like I forget what they're called, but his scout like guy, the guy that's with him when he's sniping all the time, like when he's just laid out.
Yeah.
When he dies, it's like this real dramatic scene. He's like talking to him, and then it just cuts to him on the plane with all the bodies, and it's like, what happened? Like it's like I think the shot with the bodies is cool, but there's just so much jump. Like it's such a jarring
The
jump.
movie
It's like
definitely has a pacing issue because the first half an
That's
hour
what I
of this
mean.
movie,
It takes-
you're like introduced to Chris Kyle. He meets his wife. He joins
He's
the
in the
military. He's
military.
doing training, and then it slows down for the last
and
hour
then it's
and a half.
all military until the last like 15 minutes.
I thought it was trying to like insert you into the perspective of a
of a
soldier
marine, or
who is
something. Or he's
like
Navy
not
SEAL.
really there with his family, and it's cutting in and out of the family part of it to where like, oh,
I see
your son
that.
is born. Oh wait, your son is 2 years old, and he's like talking to you.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
do feel like
yeah.
that was intentional at least.
Yeah,
but-
like
I
the
think
jumping
that-
of that. Was
Yeah, I
intentional.
just think it was a bit weird how the first half of the movie is paced because you see like Chris Kyle grow up.
What's funny
Then,
is,
like, all of a
yeah,
sudden-
I
no,
like
I
that
agree.
part.
Yeah.
though.
Too much
I would
into that.
agree, but I like that part though. I feel like that's a part
Yeah.
that I was definitely really interested. I think, like once again, not just looking at it as a movie and you're just watching this character, like pretending it's not a real person. Like that's
Yeah,
a
we
fun
should
character to
separate
watch.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I'm
I
going
I think
for.
I think the
You
second
should.
half of this we should state when we're talking about thoughts on real life Chris Kyle. This is all movie
In the
stuff.
movie, Chris
Yeah,
Kyle, like,
we're taking the
Yeah.
movie.
try to look
face
at it as a
value.
movie. That's what I wanted to say earlier that I forgot about with what Chris was talking about earlier is that I feel like this movie doesn't intentionally push across harmful things at a lot of the points, but I do feel like it is harmful a decent amount of the time, and I don't think it's intentional, but I think it's a little. I'm trying to be ignorant to what it's
This is
doing. I don't
This
think
is a bit of a black pill.
It's
but-
muddled. is what it
to
is.
be stupid, but I think that it is an accurate representation of those times. I think a lot of the U.S. saw just anybody in the Middle
I mean,
East to blame.
2014.
This movie came out 9 years
I
ago.
meant,
Yeah.
I meant like
Yeah.
2000. I meant like
This is- it's
2003.
been
Oh,
portrayal
if you
of,
think
like,
you're trying to
2003.
portray them of 2003,
Yeah.
I think if it was just
Yeah.
Chris Kyle, but I don't think the movie is just
Well,
trying to show that. You know, I
think that-
feel like
think it is.
It's
I feel
like it's a portrayal of sort of misguided. Not
Maybe it's
misguided,
'cause
but
I am
misguided
The movie never
outrage.
like the
maybe
movie
it's
never
'cause I
comes out
have
and
that
says like
perspective.
this was the incorrect perspective. Like this guy, like this
Yeah,
was
that's the
all
thing.
for naught. Like, this was a waste
And
of time.
I will
basically.
say it does that with other stuff too that I don't really agree with. Like right in the beginning, like one of the first scenes with like the dad and the sheepdog thing, and it's like he's
That's
like you're
kinda
either
cringy.
a wolf or a sheep or this. It's like yeah, like I mean like I get the sentiment, and it could be like a good. There's good things to that, but the way it's
I don't
taught
think that
and
was
the way
meant.
it's
That
portrayed
wasn't
later
meant to be
on,
portrayed as a good thing. I don't think.
Yeah,
but
me and
that's the
John-
thing. The rest of the movie spends the time showing it as a good thing. That's the thing, though. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think that
I don't
maybe,
think it did.
maybe I missed it. I don't know.
think he made this
get what you
movie-
mean by that.
I think he made this movie too intelligent. Like his perspective of these events was too intelligent for the type.
I
of
think
movie
you're
that he made.
overhyping Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, you're kind of.
Well, Clint Eastwood.
I mean, Clint Eastwood is
Intelligence the wrong
somebody.
word.
Clint Eastwood is the type of person that I think would like think that the Iraq War was justified.
I don't think so. No, because this is like I said earlier. This is an anti-war movie.
Actually,
its
Clint
core.
Eastwood.
It's an anti-war movie, but it's not an anti-Iraq war movie. It's saying that like war. This movie to me says that yes, war is against, like, it hurts families. Chris Kyle's family, like he's an entirely different person. The poor, like the like innocent Iraqis that died, like that was an issue. But
Yeah, there was no
overall-
innocent Iraqis.
I
in
think
this movie,
you're
don't
kind
worry.
of black and white.
Yeah, exactly.
Simplifying
Don't worry, there wasn't a
this
single
conflict.
good one in this movie.
Yeah.
They were all evil in this movie. That's something I wanted to bring up. I wanted to like talk about this. Like, there's one of the first sniping montages he has when it's just like him killing people. And there's one of the guys. This is another thing of the movie, just not looking that great. He comes outside with like an AK like this. And then he just blows them away. It's so dumb, but it made me laugh so much. So I kind of just like enjoyed it for no reason. But yeah, that was a lot. Like those scenes were just kind of weird too. I get that it is like later on it tries to make you feel bad for it, but the way they show it in the movie is it's supposed to be cool. So it's weird. Like
Yeah, that's what I mean.
This
This
movie
conflict of
isn't-
interest. in,
But
like,
this
what
movie
it's trying to
isn't
say.
anti-war. Or it is anti-war,
it's
but it's not
Not
anti-Iraq war.
and I can agree
It's
with
not.
that.
It's
That's why
saying that like it's justified, even though all of this bad shit happened and war is bad. Like
Not
this
this
was
war.
all for.
But-
This was all like justified.
I wanted to
Which
say
it wasn't.
I felt like maybe some of that was because I don't know if it was, but I feel like it might have been hurt by the fact that Chris Kyle died like right before they did this. So
Yeah. Well, he
Yeah,
died. He died 2013.
yeah,
This
this movie came out in 2014. So
I thought it was 2016.
2014.
Oh,
yeah.
2014. Yeah, so it was right after.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of found that weird. I'm kind of going to change the subject a little bit, but
Sure.
you know how
I
like
think we're at
his-
an agree to disagree point.
yeah, I don't know if that conversation is going any further, but the younger brother, like they show him in the beginning, like Chris Kyle like saves him.
He
from
does
the
kind of
bully or whatever.
disappear.
And then he gets really upset when he's leaving Iraq, and then they just ignore him for the rest of the movie.
And they
He's
did
Well,
not
that's
in
the
that.
thing too. If this movie focused so much
That's
more,
what
I
I'm
wanted
saying.
to say,
It doesn't commit
on-
to like anything.
if it stuck to like the PTSD stuff and like him like helping those people and stuff, like that was like so interesting and
But
real. That was
that's
what
the
really made
last
you feel like he
10
was
minutes
such
of the movie.
a good guy, and that's what
But
you
that's
see
how
the
he
least
died
of.
because he was helping out like a.
Yeah,
soldier.
they would make it sadder if that was most of what they showed.
Most
Yeah,
of
I
the
would've-
movie is just a
you're right.
very
Imagine this
uninteresting.
That's a
war
good point.
movie.
That's a good
Imagine
point.
this movie if it was just him helping like veterans with PTSD and stuff, and then you got like flashbacks of the war and stuff.
The
where it
problem
pulled
was
from.
like the problem was with the premise of the
Good
movie.
idea, right?
Chris Kyle wasn't that guy.
True.
Chris Kyle was somebody who
he was
grabbed
not
the-
him.
You're not that
He
guy,
wasn't
pal.
him,
He
bro.
You're not that
about
guy.
how many kills he got. Like he was not like a
He didn't
good
have that
dude
many.
that you could make like
Yeah,
a good
he was a
story out of.
But
Like,
I mean,
braggadocious guy.
I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're hyping it up that much, you're probably not that great of a guy. But I mean, I will put up the argument that it is pretty complicated in war from the perspective of a soldier. I mean, I'm not not putting up the you're following orders argument, but I'm just saying like it is complicated to
With
judge
this war
fully.
in particular, I think this is what the 9/11 scene is even really about. Is that a lot of these people were kind of manipulated into fighting in this war. And
Oh,
there
there's so
was
much propaganda, too.
propaganda and
I mean, like
public-
Chris said,
Well,
it wasn't
imaging.
them.
Also,
it wasn't
it's
them.
it's a sense of urgency, especially after like such a cataclysmic
9/11.
event, on the home front like 9/11. There's
Yeah.
a sense of urgency to because it's
such a
it's-
goddamn mess.
yeah.
But they're just
Sorry, I
fighting
don't
the
mean to
wrong
cut you
people.
off, John.
No,
Like,
Yeah,
uh,
well, that's
I
why
don't
I
know.
said like it's the wrong people. But
I-
I feel
yeah.
like the movie is
But
trying
I
to
don't-
avoid addressing that. Is what it is.
I don't know.
It's-
that you blame
Exactly.
the
Like
soldiers
the
for that.
movie needed to
No,
address
the
that.
movie's like it's got
I agree.
like,
So did
a
I. I
very,
agree.
yeah,
I would
I
agree. It
agree.
should
It's
have.
got it's got like a pro soldier, like the men that actually are
Which is
there
good,
fighting.
right.
Yeah,
Well, look, I agree with
they
Pro
just
Soldier to
they
an
happen to
extent,
choose
though. Like,
the worst kind of soldier to portray this kind of story through. But
but this is why I think that can be bad. Is what I was gonna say. Is you can't just slurp everything a soldier does just because they're a soldier. I do
Yeah.
think you should respect them. Obviously,
Yeah.
like I have. My brother was a Marine. You know, like you should absolutely respect them. Like that's if worst comes to worst, you're giving up 4 years of your life for technically a job that is a service in some way or another. And I'm not. Once again, I don't mean you gotta like slurp them, but that is something to respect. You know.
Yeah, that's I
at least
think
that much.
A lot of people do. I think it's a funny thing because there's a criticism of like the people who just like suck veterans' dicks.
Yeah, and there are people that are like they
But
hear veterans
a lot of
knees
veterans
through the
whether
ground.
whether they're right or wrong, do believe that they're defending people's freedom, and they are willing to like die for that.
Yeah.
So it is something to be respected.
Well, that's what's
and I
sad
certainly
about
don't
it
want
too.
us.
Yeah.
Don't want it to come off that we're just like shitting on veterans.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think we
not
are,
at
but I
all.
just want
Not
to
at
I mean,
all.
I am a little bit because it's
Not at
funny,
all.
but no.
I think we need to challenge
more
like
that
the
isn't
idea.
yeah.
Like, I think it's important to challenge the idea of like why these soldiers are doing it to like create a discussion.
No, you're
but
absolutely
like,
right.
it's not the
A soldier
soldier's
can be an
fault. Yeah, I
awful
agree.
person. A soldier can be an awful
It's-
person. I think Chris Kyle was an imperfect person in his negative aspects were worsened by how the military promotes those
You almost wonder
traits.
if he would have been that person had he not gone through such severe training, like
Yeah.
through the SEALs and been
Or the-
given this opportunity, or if
Yeah.
he would have just been maybe like just kind of a dick. Because
He still could have been a dick. Yeah, he's still a bit of a dickish
like maybe
guy.
he would have just been kind of like a bit. Being a dick really isn't. I don't mean that in a negative way. Like some people are just a little harsh.
Doesn't make
and,
you
like,
evil. You could be a dick
colored,
and not be
yeah.
evil, or an ass.
It's
just kind of a hard ass.
it's an interesting. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting kind of fucking point because the U.S. military training is so
It promotes
tense now. Like,
and there's other
there's an
things too, with just the things that
Oh.
they
Or
want you to
PTSD.
be. Yeah, there's PTSD and the things that they push in you while you're in the military that don't really adapt to real life. Like
That's an
it's not the same.
interesting- I'll bring this up. I might need the floor for like a second, but I watched. There was a
ahead.
video I watched.
Sure.
I remember watching this in high school, and I go back to it like once a year. It's just like a 20-minute video by some random YouTuber. The guy's name is Lindy Beige, and he makes like history videos about like all over time. You can find shit about like the ancient
Mhm.
Romans and like role that like their religion played in their fighting styles. And he does like all crazy shit. But he does one about like modern training in militaries. The video is called Shoot to Kill.
Mhm.
And he kind of goes through history of like modern warfare. So like back to World War II. And the surveys they did after the war found out that 2% of the soldiers were shooting with the intent to kill the enemy, and less than 25% were shooting in the general direction of the enemy at all. So the United
Really?
States military progressively throughout the years has been training people. They used, if you know what like a conditioned reflex is, like if you ever looked
Mhm.
into like Skinnerian psychology, where instead of like having a circular target, all of a sudden they have a man-shaped target. And they play that like paintball game. If you guys have ever heard of
Yeah,
seen that,
I've seen
it's
it.
like super high-powered paintball. So like if you get hit, it really, really fucking hurts, and it can even kill you if you get hit super close.
Really?
So people are like, they trained that over and over. So you're drilled to see a target, shoot a target, and you don't
Yeah,
think
to just
anything.
kill.
They've gotten
Yeah.
from 2% shooting to kill the enemy. The U.S. military, I think this is through Desert Storm, has it to 96%.
That's insane. I didn't
So-
think it would be that.
Is actually insane, and that is kind of like you can. He brings us up at the end of the video is that we've kind of seemed to turn regular people into like trained killers, but we don't
Machines,
have
pretty
a
much.
remedy to change them back. They have to come back.
Well, they don't care after that. You've
No,
been
it's
through-
really
you've been
fucked
through the
up.
You've
machine.
done
Yeah,
your
they're off.
service.
That's why it's
Yeah.
disgusting what they do to veterans. They don't do really much for them. I mean, like you get health care, but it's still not. And then there's not even
Do you?
really good. There's not. Yeah, but I mean that's what you should. I don't know what all you get, but you do get health care for a while at least. I know
that
that
is the
much.
one thing.
True
My
veterans,
dad
yeah.
goes through the VA. And
Yeah,
he's like,
I didn't want to say it and then be wrong, so I was like,
no,
"Oh,
my dad. It's like you get decent health care.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's better than none, which most people would have if they didn't get it like their job.
Seems like the bare minimum. Like they take care of your copays and shit, and it's like, okay, thanks for like the $30 every couple months.
Well, no, it also seems like they say they'll do more. This is what I really see the most, like through my brother and everything, is they say they'll do a lot and then they just find a way out of it. They they don't pay you and shit. Like they'll fuck you around as long as they can, which that's what they do. So, and that's why it's fucked up. I was gonna say there isn't really great. I want to like therapy. Like it's not super popular to get therapy, and it's not it's not like mainstream to get that kind of help right now. Like that's not stuff that's really used a lot, and that's something they need a lot of. That's people that need it more probably than anyone, realistically, like the stuff they need to get out. Because like who do you talk about that stuff besides other people that have been through that stuff, really?
I was gonna bring that up. That's like even the saddest thing is that the only people who really seem to help are other veterans through the VA. And it's like that's like all their life is about now. Is the shit that they had to go through.
Yeah, because they can't adjust back
signing
to
some
this life,
papers at
right?
18.
I mean, imagine that you're taught to kill someone as soon as you see them, like you said, just shoot, and then you have to go back to regular life where like you could just get like fucked over by a guy in a McDonald's drive-thru, just fucked your whole day up, fucked up your meal, and now you're just sitting there pissed off. How are you gonna adjust back to that? Like that's such like a weird difference in problems, That would fuck me up. I know that.
Or you just end up.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Discarded.
The movie does like
the
movie.
True. It should. Just one sec, Chris. Like on how many homeless people are homeless people, and how many veterans are homeless, and don't get any help.
Yeah, I think the movie does a really good job of like exploring like the emotions of somebody that would like go through this kind of thing.
But that's so little of the movie, though. It's such like
is it?
That's what I wish was more.
I think that's the entire goal
so
of the movie.
It's
the goal, but so little parts focus on that.
Yeah,
it's few and far between.
Yeah,
it's almost as if maybe this was intentional. I don't. Maybe I'm giving Clint Eastwood too much credit, but it seems like they filmed.
I think he just missed with this movie.
It seems like they filmed the.
Everybody has a bad movie.
The scenes in Iraq as like you would expect those to be this like the length of scenes where he's at home. They kind of switch the order, so it seems like he's going away from home when he's at home.
Yeah,
he's back to the like center.
Whether that was intentional or not, I can see what you mean.
I feel like
that.
yeah, partially.
There was
we're all sitting here like wanting more time at home. I feel like the amount of
that's
time
probably
they
what he
spent in
wanted.
Iraq. Yeah, it seems like it's like flipped that way.
That just became his life.
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen Jarhead?
No, I love Jarhead. Great movie.
It reminds me of Jamie Foxx's character. He's like the only guy, like he refuses to like go home. He just keeps signing more and more to like be the trainer and be in war because that's the only place he feels like where he belongs.
Isn't he missing his legs in that or his knees or something in that or messed up? I forget. That's Jamie Foxx's character, right? In Jarhead.
Yeah, I don't think he has.
I think his
knees.
legs. I remember. Isn't his legs fucked up too? Why am I thinking that? Maybe I'm thinking of a different character.
Bad knees. College football.
The problem is like the Chris
random
Kyle,
movies. Sorry,
Chris Kyle in real life was somebody. The reason why he went back was because he thought killing was fun.
Yeah, it was just kind of blood sport for him.
Yeah, but
and the fact that I knew that while watching the movie. Yeah, but what?
Knowing that makes it way worse.
Then why not like change it to be just some generic soldier?
Oh, it is weird.
Make it not based off true event. Yeah, like
that's why I say it's.
Why does it have to be Chris Kyle?
That's why I say it's Slurpson. But I guess if I know, that's because I know his backstory.
I feel like they kind of did portray that because it, at least from me, somebody who doesn't know him outside
at
of the
every
movie,
point he can, he's like, "Oh, I feel bad about shooting people," but in real life, he wasn't like that.
But it seemed like one of his main motivations to me for staying was he wanted to kill that one sniper specifically.
That's what the movie tried. I wanted to say,
kill him.
This is like a fact I looked up because I was so interested in it. Yeah, that's not real life. They didn't do that in real life.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, that was his longest shot, which I remember like reading about that too because it was like cool. I mean, like that's still a cool ass thing to think about. Is he shot someone from like over a mile away? That's insane. But yeah, it was just some random dude. Like it wasn't like this big event where he took out the lead sniper. from wherever, and I was reading
Former
about
Olympian.
it. Yeah, he didn't kill him.
He wasn't a former Olympian. He wasn't anything. The movie just built him up as this antagonist
that's
just for the
why-
sake of it.
That's why I said they slurp the fuck out of him. Like they make him like this superhero, Terminator, and then they actually, honestly, the villain is kind of cool, like with Mustafa or whatever. But he's kind of badass throughout the movie because they got all this tech and stuff, and he's just like on a cell phone calling people and just gunning people down.
The sniper's so accurate. Like he's zooming in and he's like,
Well, I
dead
don't even mean
on.
that. Like they're just
And
like
Chris Kyle's
calling this
all
dude on the.
blurry.
They're just calling this dude on the phone, and they're like something in Arabic. I can't or whatever language. And then I don't know what they said.
You
Just
know,
roll up.
the subtitles are just.
I knew what he
speaking
meant.
Arabic.
Yeah,
They
it was
were.
Arabic.
He like nods.
And
his
then,
head.
and then he just
Drops
jumps
the
across like
location.
5 buildings. He jumps across 5 buildings and then kills a whole unit. It's like
Yeah,
holy
he-
shit.
he's
Yeah,
a menace.
I
had
did
the
find
dragon
it
off.
funny. I did
He
find
is
it
him.
funny.
Can you confirm it's him?
It's him. Oh, it's him.
Yeah, that like the universal sign for like a bad Iraqi person was just someone with a cell phone. Like you just know that they're like doing some fucked up shit.
That was how the movie started. He saw a guy with a cell phone. Was like, should I shoot him?
Oh, this guy's got a burner phone.
That was something that made the movie a little harder to like too. Was there was like specifically that scene where they go in that guy's house, and then they like just raid this dude's house and attack him and his family, and they try to, you're just not supposed to be like, well, I mean, you're just showing me the fucked up shit that we did. But then he has all these weapons stored to make him seem like a bad guy, so it's like justified.
Who's a different
so you
guy?
don't think
That was
about
a
no, it
different
was
guy.
him. No, it was the same guy. I promise you. I watched this movie.
Oh,
Same
that guy
guy.
got
that
gunned
first guy gets
down.
shot in the street.
Nope, it was the
that
guy. Nope,
gets-
it was the guy that fed him dinner.
Nate,
and
I
then they
promise
met-
you're wrong.
Nope.
These are two
It's
different
4v1.
people.
Same person.
4v1.
Well, no, they did go to that
He
guy's
thinks
house
all
and eat
Iraqis
dinner.
look the same.
And they attacked his. They took his house. Remember, and then they
Yeah,
stayed
no,
up in
actually,
his
Nate's
house.
right, yeah.
And then he fed them dinner, and then he saw that his elbow was all bruised.
but that was
You're talking about the second guy.
Yeah, the second guy
Yeah,
was
Nate-
the elbow bruise.
That's who I
The
was
first
talking
guy-
about.
That's what Nate's talking.
Oh,
You
that's
guys
what I was
were
talking
guys were
about.
I thought you were
confused.
talking about the
You
first guy.
motherfuckers were wrong.
No, but the first
You
guy
can't
was
just
the one.
tell me who I'm talking
The
about.
first guy was the one they ran in and like.
No,
you know, they
do you forget
ransacked
the
his
scene?
house.
They just
They did it
bolted in
twice.
this
They did it.
dude's
There were
house,
two.
Put a
scenes.
gun in his
I don't remember
kid's
them
face,
ransacking the second guy's
Put a
house.
gun in his kid's face.
I thought
and
that
then
was the
took
first guy.
fucking
It was-
thing. That's what I'm
That
trying to
was
tell you.
less bad than the first.
You're
guy, though. The
incorrect.
first
It
guy-
was just as
The
bad.
first guy, they really went in there and like, you know, they were
scared-
mad.
They
Look
put,
at me
they
when I'm
put a
talking
gun
to
in
you.
his-
Hey,
That's
look
what they
at
did to
look
this
at me when
guy.
I'm talking to you.
But they actually pretty much did that. But then instead, we're like, we're staying here, and you can't leave until we leave. That's what they did, and it's like, yeah, that is fucked up. I mean, once again, I get it; it's war, but that is fucked up. I'd be
Also,
pissed too.
Why did nobody?
That was what I
else,
was trying to get to.
Try and learn any Arabic whatsoever to make communication easier.
They had a
they'd be like,
translator.
"Get in the
They
corner,
have, like the
like."
one guy.
They had a
That's-
couple.
yeah.
They had a couple
Yeah.
translators.
But he came in later after they screamed at them for like.
was
I mean,
there.
they're
I-
barking orders
I
in a language they don't
suppose-
understand.
I suppose their reasoning.
I
is
wanna
that
know-
the city was supposed to be
Oh,
evacuated.
Can I get
They
back
were-
to
they
the
were
fact that
told
I
that
want to
any
know
military
why
age man was a threat.
Yeah.
why did this dude have a bruise on his elbow, and that meant to Chris Kyle, I gotta go looking through this guy's house. Like, what was that? Like, why did he
He's
think
just paranoid.
He's like perched, like resting a gun on his elbow.
Yeah.
You think? I mean, why would
Yeah.
that make me
Maybe.
get a gun, or why would that guy?
That or he's like John Jones and he just starts throwing elbows and cracking people.
I mean, like, also they live in like he probably does a labor job. I would assume. Like,
Yeah,
who knows? like it's not like there's a lot of office jobs in that area.
No, they're
Probably
to be
they're
good,
all
good to be lucky.
terrorists according to the
yeah,
movie.
of course, yeah, everyone's a
No,
terrorist.
it was
that was my- that was my point.
it was
Sorry, I
because
got
Chris
interrupted.
Kyle probably has those same bruises because he's also a sniper.
Yeah, that's what it's.
Oh.
and
meant
he
to be.
relates.
That would have
to
been a
it.
cool
Yeah, yeah.
scene. That would have been a cool
Yeah,
scene.
but it never says that,
Should've
so this is
included.
all speculation.
Well,
I would
that's
like
what I
that.
assume.
That's
I
what
mean,
I
that's what you're
insinuated.
meant
movie
to
is
do.
all headcanon. Chris Kyle just wrote a book of lies and then they made it into a movie.
Chris Kyle just hyped himself up and they made it into a movie.
That's
Okay.
another. This is a really funny thing. This is like kind of off filter, but in the book, he wrote that he knocked out Jesse Ventura in a bar, and he completely made that
Just
up.
made
Jesse
that up?
Ventura took
Wait,
him
who
to
is
court
that?
and won.
This Ventura
He
was
just-
a wrestler, right?
Yeah, why would you? That's the thing. Why would you
Yeah.
lie about that? That's so
It
weird.
was so random. Like, cause I watched the interview with Jesse Ventura, and he's like, Chris Kyle just said he knocked me out at a bar and I was in Mexico. He's like, my son had to email me like, Chris Kyle said he beat you up at a bar.
Lying. This
And
dude's
he's like, what the
lying.
hell?
Well, yeah, Chris Kyle like also lied that he killed like 20 Hurricane Katrina looters and blah blah
Oh
blah.
yeah, yeah.
So the
It's
dude is
such
just
a weird thing to brag about. Yeah, he's insane. He's
Yeah.
literally he's unhinged
Yeah.
and it goes unchecked.
as
and
if
he's-
the
and he-
punishment for looting should be like literally
get-
death.
to get gunned
Like,
down
come
by
on.
Here's the
some
thing.
random guy.
That's where I think like the conversation of would Chris Kyle have been that guy 1995 or did he kind of get turned into that
I mean,
guy?
I feel like it's
Let
unfair to
loose.
completely blame. I don't think it's completely their fault that he was like that. I think it promoted those aspects of him going there. You know, I think it was
it's
part
the
of who he was.
idea is that like the kind of like what he was going through is like that's what this experience creates. This is what war creates, is someone like him.
It's funny that 2% that can shoot to kill without any training split pretty much evenly into 1% being psychopaths and 1% being like Medal of Honor and Victoria Cross winners. There's like,
Bravest men.
there's like, because
It's a thin line,
Psychopaths-
really. Like when you think about it.
nobody can really shoot somebody who isn't immediately threatening them unless they are literally built different like those guys. And then like, actually psychopaths who
Yeah.
can't recognize fear and emotion in other people.
Yeah,
So do you think this movie is like self-aware? Like this is like
I think to an
it's not-
extent.
you're not supposed to necessarily root for Chris Kyle, but you're supposed
I think you're supposed to
think
feel
so.
for him.
You're
for
supposed
sure.
to feel
There's a-
for him,
Either the
I
movie
think it hypes
is-
him up,
but
for
it doesn't
sure.
do a good job of it.
Yeah, it either doesn't do a good job or like I don't know. Clint Eastwood.
That's the thing.
maybe-
It's like this the whole movie.
It
with,
teeters
like,
back and forth
everything.
so much.
Yeah, with like everything.
I don't think that was the intent, but you're right. I don't think it did as good a job as it could. Maybe he was just like being like timid, walking the line of like I don't want to make a movie that just shits on veterans. Like,
Well,
don't
I
know.
think
I was going
I
to
think-
disagree and
I
say this
think
movie isn't self-aware at all, and
he's
it's
the type to
glorifying
definitely
Chris Kyle
flirt
100%.
veterans a little bit.
But
Then I have to ask you about a scene specifically because I think it kind of paints him as a bit of a dick. And they did put it in the movie where his friend is dead and the mom's like reading that poem and he's talking about how he's like second guessing the war and he's not, he's like, is this really just or whatever? I don't remember the exact words of the poem. And then his wife asks Chris and he's like, or she's like, how did that make you feel? And he said, oh, well, when he wrote that poem, he was already dead or something to that extent. I think that kind of just shows like that clearly paints him in a bad
Yeah.
light that he's
Yeah, but
kind
I
of-
feel like
I don't know-
that
I don't
part
know
of that
about
is
that.
pointed is like, yeah, I feel like it's supposed to be like a badass moment for him is what it feels like in the movie. Like I feel it doesn't
don't
come
think so.
across as it's
I don't
supposed to
think
be like
so.
this dark,
I think
sad
it's a
moment.
depressing
Like,
thing.
I don't feel like that. I don't feel like that scene is supposed to feel like because he says that he's sitting there all serious and like looking forward and he's like focused when he says it. He took his eyes off the mission. Like
Yeah,
that,
but
no,
that's
that
what
feels
it
like
looks
he's-
like.
I-
when
I
he's-
That's
feel
like a
like-
jaded, cynical kind of like he is
Yeah.
like jaded and cynical kind of.
Yeah,
like,
I
reflective
feel
of the
like
mindset he has to have.
I
to
feel like
be
he's changed
in
by
there.
war, but he's not in the movie identified as like an objectively bad person or like that like this is what happened because of like what happened,
there are
Definitely
are
not,
moments where he again like what I mean like few and far between and teetering back and forth. There are like moments where he himself doesn't really want to like because that one guy refers to him as like a legend, like oh you're a legend, and he's like he does say like well if this is what a legend is I don't think you'd want to be it, and I think he's aware of like
But
what
is he
he's
saying
doing.
that? Is he saying that because he killed people, or the very last, like one of the last scenes of the movie, he's like, "Oh, I'm not, upset about the amount of people I killed. I'm upset about the amount of people I couldn't save." Like he
Yeah.
doesn't care about the people he killed.
The movie
Did-
doesn't
did
do a
anyone
good
read the
enough
book?
job of that.
no.
No, I don't
Okay.
read.
No,
Because
come
I'm
on, dude.
curious if he put
Is
in
this
the
reading?
amount of times. Yeah, it's not book club, but I'm curious if he
Book boys?
put in the book like that many
Book
times
House
of
Boys.
other people calling him a legend. Because like in the movie, it's like everyone just shouting.
wonder
him
if
praise
anyone
That
over
was
and
a
over
thing.
again.
I would like to think that no one thought he was cool in the military though. Like that's why he wrote the book.
he was a loser.
I'm pretty sure that was a thing because I've seen other like videos of like
I mean,
people in the military at the time. I'm pretty sure he was pretty famous, but like,
he
there's
had
like
all the
those
medals
stories.
and shit on his casket and stuff. So he was well liked, at least, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Part of that is like that happens in war. Like you saw that like at the very beginning of Ukraine, there was like that ghost of Kiev or whatever that people were
Mhm.
saying like he's
Yeah.
like the deadliest like guy in a plane or whatever. Like it's just like all made up or maybe like
That was,
that's the
for-
thing.
that was
for
positive
perception.
propaganda.
The
Like-
Yeah,
propaganda, yeah, it's propaganda.
It might
to
even be
forward.
like soldiers kind of turning a blind eye like subconsciously so they have something to like boost morale a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris Kyle definitely slurped himself. Like he was definitely a narcissist, like 100%. But
I do
think
wonder.
he
why
if
would you
he's,
lie
like
about
Captain
stalking Jesse
America?
Ventura? Like what do you do to you, man?
I mean, why wouldn't you lie if you were writing a book? You know, you could just put whatever you want. Who's gonna
yeah,
stop you?
and killing people in Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, murdering people.
We should get to that later.
This
We
guy
should get
walked
to
up
that
to me
later.
in a random car garage and he was like, "You're my hero.
Yeah.
You saved my life." Like you could just come up with that. You can make it up
You
on the
could just
spot.
lie. Be like,
He also lied.
I ran into John Jones in a parking lot and beat him up one time, and he
He
never told
also-
anybody.
He did
That's
lie
why he
about
drove home
killing-
drunk and hit that pregnant lady.
He lied
He-
about killing 2 carjackers too. I
Yeah.
thought that's where Chris
Wait,
was
did he
going.
really?
That's what I was
He
gonna.
said-
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
He said he killed 2 carjackers.
Yeah. 2 people
What?
tried to steal his car and he killed them.
Well, they
no one,
mentioned
no one
it in
ever
report
found
for that?
them.
Like two
no one ever
separate,
found them.
two
They
separate
mention it
times
in the
or-
movie that he has a hero complex or like a savior complex. Like he just like, and that's
Yeah.
probably true, just judging from
Yeah.
the books that he wanted to look like a savior. And that's what they try to put in the movies, that he wants to be one. But apparently, if you read his books, he just wants to look like one. Is what really
I think
matters to him.
this movie is like 3 or 4 scenes away from being really good. If they just added more stuff of like breaking down from PTSD or maybe like acknowledging his flaws and maybe like cutting out a scene or two. Like it's really close.
I feel like if it was more gray, the movie would have been a lot better. Like
too much
I
of it
disagree.
treating it
Beca-
black and white.
I disagree because I think they portrayed the quote unquote enemy of the Iraq war in too negative of a light to be realistic. So there was no way that I would ever enjoy this movie knowing that they're portraying, every single person that they're fighting against is like, oh my God, they're so evil. Wow.
Yeah, that
Savage.
definitely
I don't think
hurt
they
it.
did that.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
they
I
did.
absolutely think they did. Every
I think
single
they said
portrayed-
that he thought that, but that's not how it actually was.
every single
Like,
person in the movie, at any point they tried to make them look dirty so that it was like okay that you
That
could shoot
woman
them.
gave the kid a grenade to like throw at the
And I mean, I
army,
get
like-
people do crazy shit during war once again, but like I wasn't even specifically talking about that. Like you look at every time someone shows up like a civilian, they do something fucked up or something to so you could be like, oh yeah, they deserve.
or
this.
they're like,
something-
Yeah,
or they're like
yeah, exactly.
deceptful.
I think,
and they
I think
call
the
them
movie-
savages and shit. Like they never.
and it's
really-
important
I
to
don't
remember
know.
that that's the movie portrayal and not what actually happened.
That is a weird.
important to remember.
and it'd be
agree.
one thing if only like Chris Kyle called him that, but that's like not the only time like they get weirdly addressed like that.
Yeah,
throughout
But
the movie.
here's
I
what I
get where
wanted
you're
to say.
coming from. Go.
Oh, you can go ahead first. You can go
No,
first.
please. Okay. All right.
No, you
I-
can go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
sorry,
I
you
get-
get.
No,
There
you
was-
go ahead.
There was like clear racism from pretty much everybody across the board, and just kind of putting the Iraqi people
one
like
thing to,
down
like-
a level. But I don't think that was the movie saying that. I think that was just them showing us how Chris Kyle felt.
Yeah.
But the movie
Yeah,
showed
that's
you
what I
that throughout
think.
the movie is the problem, though.
But I
Right.
think
The
it was
movie
just
was
all
saying
supposed to be
that
his
was correct.
perspective and
But
how he
all
saw
right,
it.
listen for a second, guys. I'm gonna blow your mind. Everything we
God.
see in this movie shows these people like that, and then you're saying like Chris Kyle, like maybe if that's really the only perspective we saw through the movie, but we didn't. Like you're seeing these people all the time just doing things, and it clearly makes them look like awful. And any chance they get, they take any out they can to make it
I know,
like
but I'm-
okay. Like,
I think
like
they're
that
just
dude
trying
that
to
like
make
gives them
us-
the home and then gives them the dinner. Oh yeah, of course he picks up the gun right after they shoot the guy so that they can gun him down. Like, oh wow, what a coinkydink. Like that's why they're doing that throughout the movie, and it definitely happens so much that it feels distasteful. That's like the point.
Yeah, but I think
you
that
can't
they're
watch
just
this movie and
trying-
not notice it.
Yeah, but I think they're just trying to show that that's how he felt. That's how he thought things were happening.
True, but why don't they say that?
that's
When did
how
they
it
ever
actually
express
was
that in the
happening.
movie?
It doesn't. Yeah,
they
it
need
doesn't
to say
express
it.
that
I think
enough.
you're just supposed to like
Yes, no.
have brain.
No, that's not how that works.
When is there? No, there has to be an
Talking
outsider
about the
perspective.
message
Like,
of the
like
movie.
if his wife would have been like, ever took a step back and been like, this is like not justified, or like this doesn't make any
does.
sense. Like, why are you?
He kind of
When
said
does his wife?
She-
What,
she
his
doesn't-
wife supports him no matter what. What do you mean?
When
Actually,
she
I don't know
No,
about
no,
that.
no,
I don't know about
no.
She
that.
wants him
yeah.
to come home, at least.
If
I don't
we
know.
She wants him to
goes
go
out
back
like
I don't
this,
even
I
know.
don't know.
Chris is talking about
For
something
her
real
own,
different from what I
for the
was talking
family,
about.
not because the war is bad, but
No,
because
no,
she
no, no,
wants
no.
him
I
there for
was-
the family.
Hold on.
What?
Right before he goes out
What is
the last
happening?
time, she says like, "Why are you even doing this?" And he's like, "To protect my country." And she goes like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Or like, "For what? Like, what do
She
you
does.
mean
She
for your
calls him out
country?"
a decent
She calls him
amount.
on
Yeah.
his bullshit. Like he wants to go over there. It's not like he doesn't feel like, she kind of like.
I'm not
going
gonna
to
say that didn't happen.
I interpreted that as like, but your family's right here. Why do you need to fight for your country when you have us and we need you right now? Like
I mean,
that's
that's
what
definitely
I
part of it.
interpreted that as.
That was
Yeah.
definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
he-
The
I
he was
movie
viewed
also
it as all
saying
of
that
it, but
there
He's
wasn't
definitely
any.
not pro-war.
Who isn't?
The wife.
I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Wife
I
was
don't
like my
think-
favorite character.
I think what Chris
He was
is
probably my favorite
trying to
character,
say that's
too.
not really like coming across right is like they're never really against it. Like they never show anything against it. They always show that he's like in the right. Like they never show that he was wrong. And
They never question the war
him in those
itself.
situations or the war.
No,
Yeah, but
no,
it's just looking at it from his perspective. They never question that specific stuff. Like those things that when that stuff happens, they make sure to make you know that he was right there. When
It's always
realistically, those-
assumed that it's
Yes,
all
they do.
justified.
All right, then show me
not.
when they went wrong.
No,
then.
I don't.
Remember,
It's
and he
always
says
assumed
it,
that
he
it's
says
all
it in
John
the
talk.
movie.
That's a
He
John
says it
talk.
in the movie.
I don't know, because like at the very beginning, and then like when it comes back around, when he has to like shoot that woman and child, like like he does feel really bad about it, and like
Yeah,
right, but it's justified in the end. But the whole point, I'm making
There
is
was no
the war
question
itself wasn't
of whether or
justified.
not he should
Yeah,
have
I'm
gone.
aware.
Justified.
World War II was a justified war. I think we can all agree there. Like if some American soldier
Yeah.
had to kill a kid in World War II because they were going to kill a bunch of American soldiers, that would have been justified.
Yeah, well, I
as
think you're
morally
thinking
of a
too
complex
much-
decision as that was.
You're
But
thinking too
at
much
no
of the whole
point-
war, not
Yes,
like
that's my entire
specific
point. The
situation.
movie never
Yeah, and I agree. but
says
that's how
that
I
the
was talking
Iraq
about.
war was an unjust war. Like the movie
I don't-
never says that, and
I
that's
don't
my
think that's
issue.
It should have been
necessarily their
against
job.
it. I would agree, and it doesn't do it.
I think
mean,
it is.
I think it is
The
for any
job
movie
of
that shows
the-
it. Otherwise, the movie will fail long term because it will feel more dated. And then, especially when you're talking about generations that don't know that and weren't alive at the time of it happening and don't have that perspective, they will see it and be like, "Wow, yeah, that's just."
We killed 200,000 Iraqi civilians in the war. Like this was not a just war.
a million Iraqis. That
Right.
200,000 is. I think it's.
yeah, I wasn't going
fucked
to
up
say, but that is
estimate.
probably not a correct estimate.
200,000 civilians. 200,000 civilians is the number that I looked up before
Well,
doing
Those
this.
are-
The U.S.
That's
military
flipped.
gave out. The U.S.
That's how many civilians were killed.
I think for the sake of playing devil's advocate and maybe making Chris more mad, I do think that
I'm all
this
for it.
movie does do a decent job of showing that the Iraqi people did not want us there. Could you guys at least
Well,
agree on
yeah,
that?
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know that it ever
What?
painted them in a
Doesn't
bad
that, like,
light.
agree
It
to my
did.
point?
Like I don't
I
think you can
I
say
don't
that 'cause
see that.
there is no one.
Doesn't that
not a
agree to
single
my
one of the
second
Iraqi characters? What name one of the Iraqi characters besides the one in the military that was their translator that was like, I don't actually know if he was Iraqi. That's kind of an assumption, but he spoke the language. But that was like a good person, like, or did anything good, or was like just like
I
a,
don't
or
think
even
that-
not even that, just like a normal person.
I feel like the general
I don't
mob
think
of
that they-
Iraqi people that were like mad, like when the elbow dude got killed. I feel like that mob of people that were mad about that, like those are like regular Iraqi
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
that were
because-
good people.
Absolutely.
they
Yeah,
saw
but
it as
even
just
then,
civilians getting
even
killed.
then, they try to act like they're insane for doing it in that scene. They act
I don't
like they're
think they-
crazy for coming after him. Yeah, yeah, they do.
I don't think
absolutely.
that the Iraqi soldiers are even in the wrong here. I think we agree on that. I just don't think that the movie portrays it that way.
I absolutely
think-
think this movie.
I think
does.
that the general public for sure is going to see a guy with the bad guy gun, the AK, and be like, that guy's a terrorist. We need to shoot him. But I don't think that that's what the movie is doing. I think the movie is pretty
Oh.
neutral in its portrayal of like
But
These
see,
guys
that's
are
why
here
it's
to
No, I
fascinating.
think it is portraying it as like, that guy's a bad guy.
Where does it
think
show
the
you that
only-
that isn't true? That's the thing,
I
Sam.
think it's
like,
neutral.
I think you're
I
too
think it's
based. I
neutral,
think you're
and then
too
it's
stuck
not
in
the
the fact that
audience.
you obviously don't think that. Like, you're not
Yeah.
a stupid person.
I think
But
it's
the
neutral.
movie doesn't portray it like
This
that,
movie
yeah.
doesn't. Sometimes you have to show things, and this movie doesn't show the other side of that. So you have to take it as the movie is showing only the bad side of that. Like,
we
the black.
don't get the
It
we
doesn't
don't
show
get
the white, or it doesn't show the gray. It just shows black. That's all you
We-
see throughout.
we
it.
don't get the Iraqi perspective of this. We only get the like they are the all evil. They are savages. They are blah blah blah.
What is-
And that's it.
One
That's
That's
the
why
only
I'm asking,
perspective we
Sam, like,
get.
can you name one scene
What
that
is
you
the
could think
term
of where they show them as not like, other than like, because I said they do the
What were you
I
saying?
guess
Tim?
the part where they pick the guy up, but what other scene do you think that they like show them in a better light where they didn't portray them negatively?
There's a term, John. You can. I think you know. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but is ludonarrative dissonance is when you completely regard the protagonist actions as correct simply because they're protagonists. Is that what that is?
Ludonarrative dissonance. Like, I always think of that like in like a game, for example, where it's like what you do in the gameplay is like so contradictory to what happens in like cutscene. Where it's like I always think of
really?
like it's like Uncharted, where you like
Yeah,
mow
but
down
the
like thousands of people and then like
Yeah, I thought that's what it was for because it was like, oh, Nathan Drake's the good guy. These people were definitely bad because the good guy killed him.
yeah.
I think that might be happening here because like
And that hurts it. Well, no, but that and
Well,
that
let him
hurts it in
finish.
this movie.
Let him
This is
finish.
a
Yeah, let him
real
finish.
thing. Like, this is real life. Like, this really happened.
yeah,
You can't
I think
completely
that's
disconnect
yeah,
this.
I think that is what the Iraq War kind of was. Is that the public was just like, yeah, obviously the Americans are the good guys. So whatever the Iraqis do must be bad because we're the good guys.
Yeah, that was the
What is the
fear-mongering
film-
campaign.
When does the movie say that this is supposed to be like
But
a
it doesn't
public
say that that is
perception
in
of the movie?
But then it doesn't say that that isn't
What?
correct, though, Sam. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
If it can show that, but
Never
if
agree
it
with
just
Namor.
shows that and never puts it in a negative light, that's like bad. Like, you should show that in a negative light, like something like that.
Bro,
I feel
people,
like you can-
people come out of this movie, and you can't say I'm wrong. Pro Iraqi war, like this is like they
Yeah.
thought that war was justified, and that everything like Chris Kyle was literally a hero to these people
You
that watched this
definitely
movie.
don't-
I
you
think the
definitely
film
don't
is
leave it
misunderstood
thinking,
in
like-
that sense.
No, because that's
Yeah.
what the
No,
movie
I
shows.
disagree.
Though. That's
This
what the
movie-
I guess
this
I
movie is
think-
not-
we have
I
to disagree
think
on
you
it.
I'm
yourself
so with Nate.
are aware of that, and that's why. Like, any normal person that goes and sits down and watches this movie is going to take a very negative message from it. Like, you're trying to ignore the negative message that it does sell. It does sell it. Like, you can't say this movie doesn't show that throughout it. Like, it very clearly puts the Iraqis in a very negative light. And like, I'm not sitting here trying to say every single person that there wasn't like a gray scenario. And when you're talking on very individualistic moments, like, obviously, like, if you're looking in a very specific situation, it's like between people, not like the group. Like, you can say we were wrong in that, like, the war was wrong, but looking at a specific situation, you obviously can't look at it the same way. But it never shows the war itself as being technically wrong. It definitely puts that message across.
But this movie wasn't about the war. It was literally just
It
about
was.
him
It was
and his
also about the
experience.
war. That was actively a large part that was going on.
But too much of
about
it is
It's a
about the
setting.
war, and it's
Yeah.
just like this. Because I will say there is a lot of just like boom, 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 like just shooting and like mowing each
Did
other
actually-
down.
You guys know
Sorry.
they won an Oscar for sound design?
I don't know about that.
Why is the last scene of this movie
my beef.
entirely like orange? Or the last like action scene? All I can see on my screen
It's a
is orange.
sandstorm.
I think
Yeah,
Iraq
that's-
is only
I wanted-
orange.
Well, he was chasing the car. I wanted to see that. I don't want it to
Yeah,
be orange.
That was brutal.
Here's my beef with this movie. When they're firing their suppressed weapons, they make the pew pew sound. And this is supposed to be like a military movie.
It won
where
an
they're, like,
Oscar.
ultra hardcore. They don't go
Did
pew
it?
pew.
Won
And
it.
the suppressors have flashes. They have muzzle flashes that wouldn't happen. It's supposed to be like a good war movie. And
Sam,
they
I
fucked
I
that
wanted to
up.
ask
It definitely.
this
I was
earlier.
gonna say I don't think this works as a war movie that well either. because
That's
like,
my main
the action
thing.
isn't super. Like, the action isn't super exciting. Like, there isn't a lot of
Well,
like.
that's my main thing is that
big-
like it's
good
trying
battle
to be it's
scene.
trying to be this like character study of Chris Kyle, which is trying to portray him as this like flawed, not really all that
Hero.
effectively. Yeah,
Flawed
this flawed
hero.
hero, which it doesn't really do effectively in that regard. But it's also like just a very like uninteresting war movie because like not really any of the action is like that.
It's not like
Well,
1917.
Yeah, the action was never like exciting to me.
Generic, yeah.
Yeah, it's just very generic.
You don't know what's going on. It's just bang, bang, bang. Another guy, bang, 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 bang. One's dead.
Which
Bang,
which
bang,
I
bang.
which I
Yeah.
guess does kind of lean into like, you know, like you don't really get why any of them are even like fighting really. Like why do I care about what's even happening?
I enjoyed the moral conundrum of him like, oh, this kid is picking up
That-
this
that
RPG.
was-
Does he shoot him?
those moments were effective though. I
yeah,
will
but,
say.
my
Because
whole
they're
problem
they're
was
character driven.
I know that
character
actual
driven.
Chris Kyle
Yeah, I
wouldn't
was
give
gonna
a
say, when
fuck
you know
about
the real
that. He
person,
would just
he'd
shoot.
pop
Like
that kid.
it's Chris. Yeah, it's Chris Kyle.
Yeah, he would have killed that kid before he pulled
But
the
I
grenade
thought,
out. So.
but I thought if
He
you
would've
just like
shot him
watch
for
it as a
walking
movie,
funny.
Even if it
It's
was a
not really
Quran,
Chris
I thought we were in
Kyle was?
agreement.
even if it was a
I-
Quran, he would have shot him anyway.
I thought the action scenes were good, other than the orange only scene. Like that
One-
was
One
bad.
thing I do think it did a good job is kind of portray how stressful of a job it would have been to be a sniper
yeah.
and have to protect like a whole convoy and like
Yeah.
I feel like
Did a
that,
good job of that.
that's
I think
something
it
else
did a
they
good
could've
job of
done
that.
more of. Even like those were cool
Yeah.
scenes too. I would say that the sniping scenes are actually pretty cool.
I think the scene that stuck out to me the most is when I think she's on the phone with him or waiting for him to call, and she's watching the news of the Iraqi deaths, like the death toll of the
Yeah.
soldiers.
And then he
She's
has
like
to call his
crying.
dad.
I was like, "Fuck, man! Like, I don't want. This is so sad."
That was, but I did laugh that every time like a gunfight happened, they ended up calling each other or like on the phone. It's
Yeah.
like
yeah. I
every
had a
time you
kind
get
of a
a phone
problem
call.
with that.
Well, the
Are you
second time
allowed
he
to just
called
have a
is-
cell phone while you're like in combat? Like why
Probably
is he
not.
allowed to
Probably
do
I mean,
that?
not.
I mean, I think he was like the leader of their like squad or whatever, and like he might have had a cell phone for other reasons, you know, like because it
Even in
looked
the
like
beginning-
it looked like a military phone. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
those
Even in the beginning,
exist.
he was calling her like when he was like supposed to be sniping or like looking for people.
I-
She's
well, they
clearly
made it-
distracting him.
In that part, they made it sound like it was his like time to call home, but like
Oh.
yeah, why would I don't think they
It's-
would have you. They would never have you call home because like they do that in like a specific place. I think if they do like those
Yeah.
family calls, like I think you literally go to like a payphone and
Plus,
you call
this is
your
like
home.
2004 international calling. That's probably
Yeah.
like
He
not
might have
great.
been. I mean, that sniping, like what he does, I'm pretty sure it's like, all right, you go sit here for like 72 hours. You just sit
I've wanted to
there in that
ask this
position and look.
question.
Well, they did show him pissing in the
He's
room.
getting cut off. It's the third time.
Sam, you know about guns. When he decides to like stop being a sniper and go breach with them, when they like go into those people that like innocent crowd of people's house, like is that a thing that would happen where like you would be breaching with like a sniper rifle?
He
No,
had
he
a
didn't have his
Marksman.
sniper. Yeah, he had an AR.
Yeah,
with him.
he's-
Yeah, I
I
thought
don't
he had
know.
his
But even then, like
Snipers, I'm pretty sure are kitted with a bolt action and then a DMR. So he
I'm sure
would
they
have
wouldn't
two.
just leave him with a sniper.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say,
Yeah,
but,
they-
like,
they give
even
you
still, is that like too long range of a weapon to be breaching?
Yeah,
with?
that's pretty rough. Because they give you they
Bleep
give you
that out.
carbines
Bleep
like
dumb.
M4. Yeah, you can bleep that out. Sorry, but the M4 isn't actually a rifle. It's technically a carbine. So the barrel is chopped down to like 11 inches.
okay.
Whereas a rifle is like 15 plus. Like M16s is the rifle, so that has like a 22-inch barrel. The M4s are real, like they're like I don't know that long total. So they're real like pointable and like that's what you would use to breach. For
Okay.
him to have a rifle with a suppressor on the
And
end,
like- and
being
the
the
scope-
first
I
guy
mean,
in
and the
it looked
scope
like he had,
on it,
like
too.
an
He lied.
M4 kind of gun.
He absolutely
yeah. It
lied
looked like
about that.
they probably just gave him a different gun.
Yeah,
I don't know whether
That-
the other
that's-
guy had it or he did, but
It
scopes are
looked like the
usually
same
like,
gun that he was using to snipe with. So I don't know.
yeah. Well, you could. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a legit like
Okay.
rifle. Like that'll be good out to like 1,000 meters. But like, dude, he's not. Someone will give him his M4. He's fucking Chris Kyle, dude.
Yeah.
They'll swap. Like, that was fucking stupid. Yeah.
Everyone in this movie was sucking Chris Kyle's dick. Like they're
He
gonna give
definitely
you.
lied about
I
that.
do think the most like
probably a little
unbelievable,
exaggerated.
the
at
most
least.
unbelievable scene was when he was at like the mechanic and that guy Like wait,
Just some random guy.
No,
from
it
the
wasn't.
camp.
It wasn't a random guy. No. He did.
It
Save
was the
his-
guy he saved.
I take back what I said. It was a guy that knew him. Never
yeah.
mind. Never mind.
Did they?
Right, but
did
it
they
was
show
Did I
him?
effective-
suck you off in the
Like,
bathroom?
what are the chances someone's live you saved is just at the mechanic with you? Like, that was
Did they
kind of-
show him saving that guy? Because I didn't
No,
remember that.
I don't think
I don't
so.
remember
actually.
that at
No,
all.
no.
If they did,
Yeah.
they
It's
didn't
definitely a
show it well.
cutscene. They definitely cut that out.
Deleted scene. Deleted scene.
I did like the stuff that like you would see it like maybe like a half hour before, like the dogs barking or like the drill, and then like a half an hour later he would hear something similar in like the civilian
Yeah.
world. That
Yeah.
would like you could see him like not paying attention to the
Again,
conversation.
yeah.
A
Yeah,
scene-
the
cool.
movie
I
did
like
such
They
a good
do
job of like
PTSD
portraying
very well.
A scene
Yeah.
that I actually
That's
liked.
the only thing it did right there.
A scene that I actually did like was at the very end, whenever it's like his son's birthday party, and he's sitting there in the living room, and like you hear like gunshots and like planes flying over, and it's from like behind the TV, and he's sitting in his chair, and you think that he's like watching like a war movie or something.
Yeah,
or the
there's
news,
nothing on
and
the
there's
TV.
just nothing on the TV. It's all just in his
That
head.
is a great
Yeah.
scene.
But there's
actually, yeah.
so like.
That's
the
not how I
th-
interpreted
There's
that
so
scene.
little of that in the movie. It's like there's that
Especially-
one
I
thing.
thought from the start
Actually,
it was
that's
just him
actually set
imagining
up
that.
because he was watching
Maybe
it.
I'm
It was predictable, but I
Earlier.
think it played out pretty well.
He was watching it earlier. He was watching.
Yeah,
like,
he was
people
watching.
can go down.
He
That's
was-
why it works because then later on when he's doing, you think he's doing it again. But
He
now
was
he's
watching like war footage, like it was like like footage for like football.
oh, something. Yeah,
He's
I
like,
know.
"Oh, film, babe."
yeah. That's another thing too. Like, you wouldn't think something's fucked up with this guy at that point. Like,
Yeah, it's like
It would be funny. He's like, "Look at this shot placement. That's elite, babe."
he was watching the sniper, the Syrian Olympic
Mustafa.
snipers highlight reel. He literally made a montage. And
He's
put,
watching it on Max Preps, like it's like
Yeah.
edited on
no,
iMovie.
yeah, he's
he's
watching
got like
his
the
highlight
X's
reel.
and O's. He's like writing it down.
It'd be so funny if like there was like Breaking Benjamin was playing over it. Like
We brought it up earlier, but I will say they did legitimately deploy, like the Department of Defense did deploy Blackwater mercenaries to Katrina before they sent down like is it FEMA? Before they sent down any other aid, they literally sent like retired military contractors.
That's
in
still
there.
insane, though. Like, that
Fucking
doesn't,
wild.
that doesn't
And
make
then
it right.
Chris Kyle to lie about being a part of that. Like it is very fucked up, but that actually did happen. I know we talked about it earlier, but it's like he didn't just make up about being there. Like the Department of Defense did pay people
I mean,
to go.
Really?
He did make
I-
it. He did make up the fact that he was there.
He wasn't there, but like that, they legitimately did send that.
I
shit
want to know
back.
who they invited if they didn't invite the best sniper in the world that was so unhinged that he would lie about going there. You think that would be the first guy on their list?
Yeah, I don't.
That's why
he probably
he
just
made up the lie.
yeah
Because he was
I think that-
jealous.
He
that
was,
didn't
yeah,
get
he
to
was
go.
mad. He was actually really pissed off at the U.S.
I
government.
should have put the "Don't tread on me" flag here. We're talking so much shit on the U.S. government.
I know this movie did not say that the war was wrong, clearly, but one thing I think people could at least take away is that it's never a good idea to fight a war where you're not wanted by anyone. like nobody wants you there.
I mean,
And
obviously.
I think the movie did kind of portray that at least a little bit.
Well, like-
that civilians clearly did not want them there.
Yeah,
And-
that's-
I can
that's
agree with
the-
that much
yeah.
at least.
because
I
that's
can
the
give you- I
problem.
can give you that.
Is that like again this movie makes this conflict like portrays it as being way more simple than it actually was, especially because like it was like a two-front conflict, you know, like the war in Iraq and also the war in Afghanistan, and then stemming into like Iran, you know, all different parts of that region of the world. Way more complicated and had like, you know, lots of really horrible things that happened on both sides. And yeah, because like obviously, you know, people didn't want the U.S. military just treading around and like blowing up their cities.
I
That's their
disagree.
home. That's their
I disagree with Cole's point that this movie portrayed that. This movie
even brought
only
it up.
did that.
I mean, it
Fair.
definitely
once
portrayed
they
didn't
killed
want them
the
there.
elbow. The movie only portrayed that once they killed the elbow dude,
Did they want them in their house?
who was
Yeah,
objectively
I
a
felt
bad
like-
person.
Oh, wait, what? Wait,
Like,
where?
none of
the
where
people wanted them in
what
their house.
did you say? Sorry, I'm confused. What did you say? Like, you talk about the elbow guy, like them making him look bad?
Yeah. I feel like the general Iraqi people
that's not what Chris
wanted
is
the
arguing.
U.S. to be there in the movie
No,
until
not
after
really.
they killed the elbow dude.
No, not in the movie. I wouldn't agree with that at all because they were actively like all like kind of antagonistic towards the U.S. military. That's one thing I'll give them that. At least they weren't like
They're so
master,
complacent.
yes,
Yeah,
master,
like
please.
savior
It
complex.
wasn't. It wasn't a white savior.
They got a
movie.
gun.
Yeah.
They got a gun. Like what the fuck? Like I'm gonna do what you tell me to too. You put a gun to my face. Like what am I gonna do? Argue with you?
And I
Did
think
think it was
that.
funny.
Oh, go ahead.
Cool. No, please, because I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
make a dumb joke.
with the like the exiting of the city,
Okay,
like
Chris.
what?
I don't think
Well,
this
it's-
movie
I
was
think you're
designed to change anyone's minds about the war at all. I think whatever your preconceived notion was, like for
I
people
would
that
disagree
were
with that.
super happy about America being there, they're gonna see this movie and be like, "Yes, hell yeah!" Like this was
Well,
perfect.
actually,
But
see,
if
well,
you're
how
if
did
you're
that-
Wait,
anti the
let Cole
war,
finish his thought.
if you're against the war, like this is clearly not trying to change your mind. I don't think.
I agree,
I agree. I think so.
but I
I
think that's
would
irresponsible. to Not
Whether it was
emphasize that.
intentional or
Yeah, that's fair.
unintentional, it sends a message though. Like that, and I feel like that's what I'm arguing is the message it shows, whether it wanted to or not. I don't think was very good. And I would argue that's why you have to care when you make a movie like this. Like, and I think trying to pretend like you don't only hurts you in the long run. Because like even every single one of us gave it a 6 out of 10. Like this movie doesn't stand out in any specific way. I wouldn't call it
People
awful.
I didn't give it a 6 out of 10.
Do you think you should?
Yeah, John.
If anything,
I wouldn't
I
call
like this.
what you gave it good.
If
So,
anything, I like this movie the least out of all of us. I think.
yeah,
we
I'm
all
just saying.
dislike it.
I'm just saying
If-
you
I-
gave it all.
Six
I
out of-
wouldn't-
six out of-
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
6 out of
say I
10 implies-
dislike it.
I think the
If-
movie itself is good, but if you know the context, it's bad.
Yeah,
Like, that-
No, see,
that's-
I don't think it's a good
Okay.
movie. Is the thing. Even
If you
beyond
think the movie
context.
gives,
I think
gives,
I've
like,
seen worse.
Yeah,
I think
you're
I've
the
seen
most
worse.
negative then, John. Go ahead.
if you
Cole.
think the movie gives like a dangerous message, do you think you should hold that against Clint Eastwood or the writers or the people involved in making this movie?
Hold it against them. Define that.
Like, do you think? I don't know. Does that affect your opinion on Clint Eastwood as far as like how good of a person he is?
As good of a person, I think I would with
I
how
don't give
the,
a fuck
with
about how good
how-
of a person. Clint
I don't
Eastwood
really
is.
either, but just to say, I think that I just think that he made some poor decisions in how to display this movie because I know it's like I've seen other Clint Eastwood movies where he handles it much better, where he'll use like that. That's why I would say it because I know Clint Eastwood movies, I've seen them where he shows like people act very negative towards him, but the messaging throughout the movie is not to feel that way. But there's never that point in this movie that teaches you not to. And I get it's not the full point of this
Yeah.
movie, but there's too much happening in this movie that has to do with that to ignore it. You
Yeah,
There's a
can't.
certain responsibility you have to take on as a filmmaker, when especially like
yeah,
across the board. I think that's true, but there, especially when you make a movie about something
Like
like
this.
the Iraq War.
yeah, like this, where someone was actively I'm trying to think of a good word for it. I don't want to call them a victim. I mean, they were a victim, but
Yeah,
the
his victims
oppressed-
all around. They
Yeah.
clearly got played by the.
Well, like I said, if
Yeah,
you look at it on an
it's-
individual standpoint, like obviously our soldiers went through shit, their people went through shit,
Yeah.
and they were not. Neither one of them was actively the people that chose to start it, which
Yeah.
is the disgusting part of any war, realistically.
reminds
which
me
is-
that this is I think this was in the past year, that guy yelling at George Bush when he's like yelling at him and brings up
yeah,
all the
that hey,
people
that's
who
what you
fought
should
and
be
died.
yelling at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, shit. I was just constantly reminded of that clip watching this movie.
watching this movie. Yeah, that's.
All
I feel
these
like that's who
people.
they want him to look like. They make Chris Kyle look like what that guy does. You know, like going and actively protesting, like the people that really made those decisions, versus the real guy that Chris Kyle was.
That's why I
So-
find that's why I find First Blood Rambo to be
Mhm.
like a way
interesting
more
movie.
effective
Yeah.
portrayal of like what this movie I think is trying to get across, which is that like not only because that's Vietnam War,
I think that's what he thought this movie would be.
not
to-
only
Yeah.
that, you know, it obviously war has a horrific effect on the people that have to fight it and endure it, and it's a pro veteran, pro soldier kind of narrative
Yeah.
in that regard, but also the kind of treatment that people receive, because it was especially bad in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Vietnam veterans were treated like absolute garbage
Shit.
when they
And
got
still
home.
are.
A lot of them were
For real.
drafted.
Yeah.
and still are kind of honestly. There's still, I wouldn't say the younger generation obviously knows a lot better, but I'd still say like with the older generations, they still get a lot of shit
And also,
out of any
like,
veterans.
because I feel like in Rambo, because the violence in that movie is way more like visceral, and you feel like way more like,
Personal.
bad about it, especially with the through line of it, like that emotional breakdown at the end that Rambo has. And it's also just like so like kind of like ironic that like Rambo turned into like this like action series, like completely missing what that
The
whole movie was
opposite of
about.
what the movie is about.
Yeah.
That exact same thing happened in Jarhead. They made Jarhead 2, which is like this shoot 'em up.
They
like,
did. Wait, they made Jarhead.
Are you saying we need an American Sniper too?
Or,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
Jarhead 2
American
was, like,
Syrian
really better.
sniper. Syrian sniper.
We'll have to watch the first Jarhead at some point, but I'll wait
Recommend it, yeah.
till we watch like a funny movie first because it is very depressing.
It is
Um,
not. It is not. This. It's not this kind of war movie for sure.
I think it is a better version of this movie.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
but that's
I
what I'm saying, it's
genuinely
not this
think.
kind of. It's not this kind of
Yeah.
war.
Yeah, I think it has everything that we were missing in American Sniper. I think it has that.
It's all
just,
about
like,
PTSD. Realistically,
it's the,
like
the better shit
Yeah.
of this movie, and it really does not glorify what
Jarhead
happened. That's
gets-
about Desert Storm though.
Jarhead gets snuffed a lot. I mean, it's very similar though, but
Yeah.
Jarhead gets snuffed a lot because of the fact it's not exciting. Like it
Has,
doesn't feel like a traditional war movie.
But
It's
is-
because
is
they
it-
put the trailer was set to Jesus Walks by Kanye West. It was hard as fuck, dude. It was so hard.
But is
I
it-
watched it after I watched the movie, and I was like, maybe people were justifiably mad about
Is
this.
it more character driven? Is that like? What
Oh my
makes it
god,
work?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
dude,
I
won't
don't
give
wanna
too much
spoil
away,
it.
'cause you
Yeah,
should
I don't
watch
want to
it. Yeah,
spoil
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because I can
would like to
imagine,
talk
like-
about it eventually.
I think
all
do you think we
character
should
driven.
wrap and stop talking about a different movie?
Oh, sure. I
wanna
think
bring up-
I
I wanna
think
bring
that
up a
that's a
fun
that's a
fact.
sign that we're done.
Fun
I
fact.
want to
Go
bring
ahead,
up
Sam.
a
Fun
fun
fact. Let him know
fact
his
about
fun fact.
Rambo 1. Apparently,
About another movie.
yeah, I know. Apparently, I guess it was based off of a book.
Yeah.
And in the book,
Yeah.
the police officer was a Korean War vet. That is another reason why he hated Rambo so
Yeah,
much,
that's
is
why I didn't
because
like him.
everybody kind of forgot about the Korean War veterans
Oh, yeah.
and was only focused on Vietnam, and that was like added to his animosity. But that isn't in the movie.
I forget the cop is something else in the movie. They definitely it takes away from his character, but it just makes him easier
Yeah.
of a villain.
It's like, dude,
You
I
know,
wish they
that's
put
the
it
point.
in. That was way cooler. But anyway,
Yeah, it was way easier.
Well,
to get
whenever
the other
we
way.
talk about Rambo,
yeah.
Whenever we get
Which-
to Rambo,
I guess
You know
we
what?
have to spin the wheel to find
Yeah.
out.
Please don't
which
spoil the
brings us
Rambo
to
podcast.
the wheel.
All right.
Sorry,
You know what,
guys,
Sam?
if-
That was a pretty cool
What
fact.
you
Big
been
wheel.
waiting
Here we go.
for?
This
Oh, let me watch the
week's
stream.
wheel. I am not.
spin
on
it
the
yet. Let's
wheel.
spin it yet.
I'm not spinning.
Oh
we're
my God.
taking our time.
Oh, I thought it was. John.
We have
Where's
Sam.
the-
We have John, Nate, Sam, and Cole on the wheel. No me.
I
no
love
me
the
this
wheel.
Week. No me this week.
I love
I
Woody.
do love this.
Wait, what if
No
what
whammy,
if
no
Woody gets
whammy.
picked?
Oh my God! It's Cole.
Oh my God.
It's not
Let's
a goal.
go.
Back and forth. This is
Oh
ridiculous.
my god. Okay.
Popcorn.
Now, Cole,
Cole, what is the movie?
Cole,
you
Cole,
have?
Cole, Cole. Do
Oh my
you-
God, Cole.
You have the option to popcorn if you so wish.
You have a.
We made
popcorn.
up a new rule.
So you can
Popcorn.
choose.
All right, we respin the wheel.
You can popcorn quarterly.
Now, Cole, yeah. You can choose whoever
You
you,
get
would
one
like
popcorn
to
a
pick.
month.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
not
no
doing it.
double popcorns. If you
I'm not doing
popcorn,
that.
you have to pick.
Cole can pick a movie. Let's go, Cole.
Would you guys want to watch Arrival?
Isn't up to us.
I mean, yeah. Why are
Well,
you
it's
asking?
your
me?
recommendation.
Yeah.
Be assertive. Like, come on.
All right. In that case, then yeah, I want to watch Arrival.
All right.
yeah.
All right.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
down to watch.
Pound
that.
your desk while you say it. Like, come on, Cole.
Arrival.
Yeah, destroy the audio.
yeah. Yeah. It was on mine and Chris's top 5, so I feel like we have to watch
I
it.
suppose so. Yes. It wasn't the definitive top number one, but we'll get there.
I'm
eventually.
excited. I actually have never watched this movie.
I have never seen it either.
It's my
Very
favorite
excited to watch
director,
it.
so I'm super down to watch it.
Sam, have you seen it?
If not, I'm very excited to watch
Let's
this.
go.
Later, guys.
Fuck you.
We love you.